Hi, my name's Millie Rampling, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my professional journey as a fire engineer working with Mott MacDonald. I've been working with Mott MacDonald for 2 years since I graduated back in 2018. So first of all, I'm going to talk a bit about my university career and then the decisions I made with regards to my professional career while I was going through university, and then how I got to Mott MacDonald and what I do as a fire engineer. So I studied a 5-year master's degree in mechanical engineering with management at the University of Edinburgh. And I chose mechanical engineering because I really wanted to go into F1. That was the goal. But having studied a number of renewable energy courses, clean energy courses, coming to events like this and taking part in a third-year abroad at the University of Queensland in Australia, I kind of moved away from my original ambition. So this timeline kind of gives an overview of the career-related decisions I made while I was at university. So the first year, I took a load of alternative courses. So as I said, a lot dominated by renewable energies, clean energy technologies, really environmentally focused courses that were very inspiring. So by the time I got to the second year, I started attending careers events like this. And getting involved with what I might like to do next that isn't related to ours. And that was incredibly useful, but that was also where I first heard about Mott MacDonald. They had a lot of career events at the University of Edinburgh, so I got a lot of exposure to the projects they were running, and again, very inspiring. And then in my third year, I opted to go on exchange at the University of Queensland. And similarly to Edinburgh, they have a really big renewable energy scene over there, but they also focus quite a lot on the building service engineering world. And I was quite inspired by a talk by an employee of Arup, who was a fire engineer. So that's when I first heard about fire engineering. It sounded extremely cool, no idea what it was, kind of moved on. So by the time I came back to the UK, I tried to get as many internships as I could. So I had an internship for 10 weeks the summer I arrived home, and then a 6-month industrial placement in my 4th year of university, which was part of my 5-year program. And then another summer internship, I think that was 10 weeks long. And I worked as an assistant project manager. Bit of a hard role to do as an undergraduate, but I was helping project manage at the ORE Catapult that Lorna has just been talking about. Had an amazing time there. And then my 6-month internship was as a test engineer for an aerospace and defense company, so totally different, working on the test floor and also in the design of aerospace components. And then after that, the summer between 4th and 5th year, I was working as a design and testing engineer for Delphi, who are a diesel fuel injection system company over in London. So I got a lot of experience over quite a short period of time, but I think my biggest takeaway from that is, although there are lots of sectors you can go into as an engineer, there are also lots of services. And I didn't think that that was something I was really told while I was at university. So you can go into energy, you can go into aerospace, etc. But you also sort of should be thinking about whether you want to be a test engineer, a research engineer. And I mean, I've gone into consultant engineering, something very different. So going into my 5th year, which is my master's year, I decided to do my dissertation on renewable energy technology, biomass technology. But at the same time, I was kind of a bit confused by what I wanted to do as a career following my 5th year. So I just took a collection of the nichest courses that were available as my electives. One of those was biomedical engineering, and then the other few were based around fire engineering. So my application process, I started while I was in 5th year. I think it's important to say that I had come to realize that I didn't know what I wanted my job title to look like, but having gone to lots of career events, having studied my 3rd year over in Australia, having taken a lot in throughout my degree. I kind of wanted to base my applications on the 8 principles that are in this slide. So what size company I wanted to work for. I knew I wanted to work for a large company. I wanted the support that you get with large companies, like Mott MacDonald. I knew I wanted to go into a sector that had a lot of exposure to various different engineering sectors. So the built environment is very good for that. You get a lot of exposure to energy, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, structural engineering. And then I felt the graduate program was very important to me. I really wanted training opportunities to develop, but specifically develop in relation to my chartership. That again is something that Mott MacDonald offer, and I knew that through going to events like this. The core values were very important to me. The idea of sustainability, keeping that at the forefront of projects, was very important. And finally, the services. Through having internships and placements, had realised that I wanted to be office-based for my first job, just to establish and have that exposure to the industry through being a consultant. So I made my application to Mott MacDonald as a mechanical engineer. However, because I had skewed my cover letter so much towards fire engineering, all my examples were about times in fire engineering, times in my course where we had experiments to do with fire engineering. They actually offered me a role with the fire engineering team, which was something I was a bit concerned about before I started with Mott MacDonald. I didn't know if it was too niche, but in fact, it's actually been a fantastic role, and I'm really enjoying myself and have been throughout the 2 years I've been with Mott MacDonald. So what is a fire engineer? It's multifaceted. So we do quite a bit of advisory work, mainly working with the government on creating British standards and advising on the rollout of new technologies. And that's more analytical. But our bread and butter is design development. And that's working with architects, with other engineering disciplines to facilitate the design of buildings. We've got a number of projects. We work throughout sectors. We design hospitals, offices, battery energy storage systems, a whole plethora of projects to do with the built environment. We also provide consultancy throughout the construction and maintenance process, but everything we do is based on fire dynamics. And that's what I studied at university. And that's what I found really interesting. So that's the thermodynamics behind smoke modelling, fire behaviour, and then also human behaviour in fires and unwanted events. And then finally, we get to do site visits. And that is such a nice change from the office. I mean, obviously not at the moment, but generally that makes a nice change from being in the office, and you get to actually see the work that you've been producing, which is fantastic. So I would say from my whole process through going through university and making these decisions, my biggest takeaways are that these events are so important and so helpful. I mean, when you hear people speaking from different companies, it's very easy. I mean, obviously, we're speaking because we're very passionate about the company, but the more events you go to, the more you kind of are able to pick out things that you find valuable to you and to the decisions you're making in your career. And then the second point is when you're making your applications, I found tailoring my applications to companies that I really believed in really helpful, rather than just sending out as many as I could. And that would be one of my biggest takeaways from the process. Thank you.